Yarr! Hello mateys, this is Captain Blue here over at CGPirates. I hope you're doing well. Today I am going to show you in a slightly longer form lesson, okay? So all you have to do if you're feeling tired is pause it, remember where you're at and come back to it later, okay? Don't feel you have to watch everything, because you don't. And I'll do a time lapse as well if you want as well. But we're going to do a bothy, okay? Now the reason I'm doing a bothy, and I'll explain what one of those is as well. It's a small cabin or like cottage you find in Scotland. Normally they have an open door policy, you know, they're in remote places, and you get yourself in and get out of the cold. But bothies tend to be recovered older buildings. Okay, so it's a good example of an older form of architecture. So that's why I'm doing it, because it's a good example that I can use on the island that I'm developing my video game for. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is developing a video game asset. In this case, I'm using 3ds Max. Now, if you are a Blender person, you can develop it in Blender. If you're, you know, Autodesk Maya person, you can do that. You can even use probably Sketchfab. I don't know. Anyway, once I'm done with this, I'm going to convert it to a FBX format file, and I am going to then put it in. Oh yeah, the new Quixel Mixer. Yeah, man, good stuff. Okay, so first things first, let's start on our bothy. So, as you'll know by now from having watched previous CGPirates tutorials, I'm going to make my screen YARRRrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a biped and make them approximately 1.8 meters tall, so that's 180 units high. There we go. Pardon me. Got the sneezes going on because I have a head cold. Okay, and now I can use him or her, they got to be equal, or they, as my, what do you call it, as my reference for the height that I need. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and build it in a kind of a modular way if I can. The reason being that if I do that, I can make them bigger or smaller as needed. I'm going to build a separate roof, okay, so that way I can have some without roofs and some with roofs. And what I'm going to do is construct it using a 4-wall layout. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all 4 completely different, which means that I'll be able to change between them very, very easily. Okay. Now, I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to take my little man here, who I'm going to call Trevor McDonald. Over there you go, Trevor McDonald, which is a very Scottish name, and is in fact the name of a British news broadcaster from the news at 10, I think. Right, so we're going to start off with a box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it, now, that's 2 meters, okay, so that's uncomfortably small. 4 meters is fair, so let's make it maybe 6 meters. There we go, 6 meters wide. Okay, and I'm going to make it about 2 meters high, which is high enough to go through, but still uncomfortably short, which is perfect, okay? Because these things wouldn't be built high for what we need. They'd be built fairly low. Now, for thickness of the walls, these walls are thick because they're normally made out of like heavy stone. So I'm going to make 50 centimeters. Okay, so like ½ meter thick. If you measure that out with your hands, that's pretty darn thick. In fact, I might make that 25. There we go. Still thick. Is it thick enough? Yeah, it'll do. Okay, so width of 600 and a height of 200. Okay. Now then, I'm going to give it a naming standard, which I know for me is pretty rare, but there we go. So I'm going to call it B underscore, because B stands for Bothy, even if it technically isn't going to be in the end. It's going to be a Bothy wall long 01. Okay. And then what I can do is I can just make a quick copy of it and put it over here if I need to as well. Just Alt Shift and drag it. Okay. So Shift and drag, move that over there. That's out of the way. Right. Now, the thing about walls, especially these walls in general, is they're not going to be overly detailed, although I am going to be using a little bit of tessellation to add extra polygons and things like that. It's not going to be mad detailed. Now, about closed polygons, if you look on the bottom and the sides, okay, I can open these out to save on polygons. However, this may end up being the end cap wall. It could be that I don't even bother putting the end walls in for some of them, okay, because like I say, I'm making 4 pieces. I'm going to use that to make all my different parts. So we shall see. Now, I need my side caps next. So box, and this time it's going to come this way, and we'll have a length of about 4 meters and a height of 2 meters. Okay, so length 400, and again the width 25. Well, I puddinged that, didn't I? There we go. There, 200. Okay, and this will be our end cap. Convert to editable poly. Now, what I need to do with this is I'm going to. They have quite shallow roofs, these things. I'm just going to drag through my vertices, not vertices, my edges just here. Okay, and I'm going to just subdivision, go away. Click connect. Okay, and that'll open that out. And then if I just select. Actually, before I do, I'm going to make a quick copy. I've turned my sensitivity up. Go away. There we are. Right, what I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to call this B small wall 01. Okay. Because I'm probably going to need some variations of this one. So I'm going to take this and copy it and put it over here. Right, so now this main wall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge here, which has a Z height of 200, and I'm going to basically raise the roof up by 1 meter, so make it 300. Okay, good. Next, this piece here, I'm going to stick a door into. Okay, now this isn't particularly hard, so don't worry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag down here, and I'm going to create what do you call it? A connect, so I can do that. Or I could use this one as an existing connect. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it, but I'm going to just drag one down here, and then I am going to just chamfer. So I'm going to press the little settings button here, and in the edge chamfer amount, I'm going to change that. Now if I change it to 100, you'll notice it goes edge to edge. 50 will give us a 1 meter wide doorway, okay, which is probably enough for our needs. So I'm going to click tick. Next, I'm going to go up here. Now, if you don't have this tool, Swift Loop, in your 3D modeling application, just use what I did before, which was a connect. And I'm going to make the door about here. And then I'm going to put another edge just on top of it. And I will explain why in just a moment. Okay, that looks good. I'm okay with that. Pardon me. Oh, the snuffles, man. Right, now I'm going to take out these middle polygons. So I'm just going to group select, get rid of those. And then, I am going to bridge my edges. 1, 2, click and click. Remember, I've shown you this in the past. If you can't quite get the hang of it, go and watch some of my earlier, slightly simpler tutorials, and you will get the hang, I promise. Okay, so now we have this, which is like a divider between rooms, yeah. And then over here, where this is, I'm going to just quickly copy it so that I've got a spare so I can kind of show you. Obviously, you can see that that is our end cap there. Okay. Now, pardon me. What I need to do next, making sure I'm still recording, obviously, is just come into here, and I'm going to divide this into 2 first. Now, my view is there's going to be 1 window, 1 door, and then at the back there'll probably be 2 windows. Okay, and that'll kind of work out fine for what it is we need. So, I'm going to convert it to an editable polygon. I'll convert this one at the same time, so convert to editable poly. Now, what I'm going to do is just go straight down the middle and use a, go away subdivision surface, use a, where have you gone? I've lost you. Create attached. Oh, it's up here now, connect. Yeah. Right, now down here, another one, and down here, another one. Now, you can speed up that process, obviously, if I was to come over to here. I mean, only by a couple of seconds, but you know. So if I went to connect and instead put in 3. Okay, so I've got the right number of connects there as well. Anyway, over here, and I'm going to make sure that both of these edges are selected. So double click and I get a full loop, double click and I get a full loop, and I'm going to chamfer, and I'm going to chamfer them by 50. Okay, so that'll give me the separation I require, and click tick. Next, depending on how accurate you want this, okay, if you want to kind of remember the amounts that you're using for this, because some of you tend to be number people, what you could do is you could do a connect like this, and then you could remember, not your pinch, sorry, your offset, which is this one, or your slide, which in this case would be perhaps 70, maybe 65, there you go, 65, okay, and that way you could, you know, have it over there as well, so 65 on there. Or you could do what I do, which is just randomly smash a loop into it and hope for the best. There we go, because, you know, old school and all that, baby. So I'm going to go about there. The window should be quite small. Remember, bear that in mind, okay? Now, I'm going to start taking away bits. And this should, by the time we're finished, look a bit like a child's drawing of a house. And that's kind of what we're going for. Normally, if you're doing like an architectural visualization of something, you know, you'll have something really modern and amazing and fantastic. But not in this case. In this case, what you have is a building that's for purpose, which is to stop you dying in the cold. And if you've ever been to northwest Scotland, you'll know exactly what I mean. It is bloody freezing there. Except in the winter when it's really bloody freezing. And there we go. If you read the guest books in Bothy's, they say helpful things like, saved my life, thankfully didn't die this week, and stuff like that. Right, now above the door and the window, we have to have something that's called a lintel, okay? And this is to give the impression of strong stones holding the roof up, otherwise it just collapsed straight through the space that we made. So let's put in our swift loop, and I can just do one straight down there, around about half the height or more. You know, use your artist's eye and think to yourself, does that look strong enough? Because it's the does it look strong enough that's the important thing here. And you can have one underneath if you want. So I'll put one underneath, and that way you've got something to put your flower beds on if you want. Actually, no, I'm going to leave that and I'll build it into the window frame, okay? And you don't have to put a window frame in if you don't want to either, which is kind of good. Okay, now let's have a look at this back wall. We've got a plain back wall here. Now sometimes you wouldn't have windows. If you're against somewhere where there's a lot of wind coming in, I would imagine that windows would be a very, very bad thing to have. So I'm going to make one with and one without windows. So this one's going to have its windows. Double click, and let's chamfer. And then in the chamferage, I'm going to set this to 50. And just click tick. And then, now, remember what we did before, okay? Same as. I'm just going to go straight through. And if you can remember the amount of your, there we go, of your connect. Turn this down. I think it's 65. Something bizarre like that anyway. There we go, 65, that's what it was. And click tick. Okay, and then for the bottom one, if you remember, we just kind of guessed. But the windows will be high and the windows will be small, okay? We're not going to have double wide windows. This isn't, you know, a show home. This is we will probably make it through the winter if we eat Grandma home. Alright, in there, and just click bridge, and bridge. Alright, so we have some good shape there, I like that. So let's get this all now into the same area. So that there, we can bring this over as well, there we are. And we've got our roof end here. What we could do if we wanted to, if we really felt like it, is we could put a window in here as well. You will sometimes get one, so I tell you what, why not, eh? We'll do that too. We'll make a copy of our small wall here. Now, if I put a swift loop in, you'll go, oh no, it's gone all bendy and weird. Yeah, it does that. Don't worry about it. Let's just select my edge, and we'll do a scale. So here's my edge, and I'm going to press the scale button, and I'm just going to... Oh no, that went all terribly wrong, didn't it? Oh. What on earth happened there? Oh, I see. My scale is in select and squash. We don't want that. We want something like this one. Okay, then we can do that. Non-uniform scaling. Very, very different. Okay, now if I use my move tool, bring that up to about there. And now if I use my swift loop, you'll notice it kind of there. Much better. And then if I make sure that this edge is selected, and again I'm going to use my chamfer. And I'm going to do this by hand and make it quite small, okay? Quite small. And oh no, can you see what it's done at the top there? That's not what we wanted, is it? That's okay, we can fix it. We can fix it. Do not panic. Rather than do it this way, you see, because that's what's going to happen, we'll just manually put our edges in. 1 and 2. Okay, and you see our window's offset? Don't care. Maybe it was offset when it was built. Think what Bob Ross would say. And if you don't know who Bob Ross is, take a moment. Go on. Goodness me. We're all shocked at the fact that you don't know who Bob Ross is. And go and look him up. And when you're finished watching every episode of Bob Ross and the Joy of Painting, in about 4 months, you can come back and go, oh yeah, Bob Ross. Okay, that all looks fine. And the last piece I need to make is the roof. And to make the roof, what I'm going to do, I don't know what you might call it, but I call it a roof, is I'm going to shift and copy this here polygon. See where it says clone part of mesh? I'm going to make it a new object, and I'm going to call it roof 01. And then I'm going to go to my roof 01 and realise that I called everything B underscore roof. And I'm going to put B underscore in front of it, because I am well known as Chris Naming Conventions Blue. Okay, now, you'll notice the pivot. See the way it's all the way over there? We don't want the pivot all the way over there, so I'm going to go here. Now, again, if you're using Blender or Twister or whatever application you're using, you might have to find somewhere else to do this, but in the 3ds Max it's hierarchy, effect pivot only, center to object, effect pivot only off. And if you look, the pivot is now in the right place. Hooray. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to move it just over to here. And you see that we're not making it that wide. This inner wall doesn't go inside. What I mean by that is, okay, if I was to assemble this all Lego style and put this here, if you look, the angle's wrong because there's a flat piece there. It's actually going to connect to the outside just here, okay? So remember that, and we're going to put this over here. Now, you may notice it's not long enough. Well, that surprises nobody. So what we need to do is just adjust it. So I'm going to just make sure that it's basically intersecting with this. Ooh, there we go. Okay. And I'm going to make sure it's slightly over, like that. Now we want to make sure it reaches the top, otherwise, you know, there ain't going to be much use, is it? And then at the bottom here, I'm going to extend it. So, what I can do is just grab here, And if I look at the line that's coming down here, or I go into my left or right zoom viewport, okay, there we go, okay, F4 so I can see my edges, you can see whether or not it's looking right. Now, what I've done is I've held shift and I'm coming out. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want my artist's eye to kick in, and I want to see if that line looks straight to me. And if it does, I'm going to go back into perspective, and I'm going to take this edge and I'll hold control of backspace. And now we have a straight edge. As those annoying things on the British adverts would say, simples. And I really hope they all get myxomatosis. Right, now I'm going to drag that across, make it a little bit long. There we are. Now remember, this is just a single polygon, so we need to just do a little bit more work on this. So I'm going to just grab here, shift, well no, actually not shift, extrude, okay, and I'm going to extrude it straight upwards or straight downwards. I think what I'm going to do, actually, look at that, I'm waffling. I'm going to move this up, right, and then if I select by border and then shift and bring this down, just so we get that, see that? And then I am going to cap. And now that is an appropriate number of polygons, so that's good news. Okay, and obviously we can move it around and do whatever the heck it is we want with it. Now it's in place. Okay, so a roof is correct. I'm pleased about that. Alright then, so we've done 20 minutes of learning. So let's take a breakage, and I will see you the next time. And until then, you take care, my loves. I hope life's treating you well. And remember, Captain Blue and his jolly crew love you all. Bye bye for now.